Hello and welcome to Talking Pharmaceuticals, an interview series brought to you by Making Pharmaceuticals and Distributing Pharmaceuticals. I'm Victoria Emerton, Conference Director for the events which next take place in April 2025. And in the lead up, I'll be joined by experts from UK Pharma to share insights, opinions and practical advice, providing a fresh perspective on key challenges and opportunities in the industry and to look ahead to their involvement in the events. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Andy Hughes, Senior Director Life Sciences at AIT Worldwide Logistics. Andy, welcome. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks, Victoria. Good to be here.
So it's the first time AIT have taken part in distributing pharmaceuticals. We're excited to have you at the event. Let's find out a little bit about you. How did AIT start its journey to become a specialist in shipping pharmaceuticals?
So my journey started back in sort of 2003. When I first started, I'd never heard of 228. It sounded more like a bus number than anything to do with sort of transport and temperatures. But I was soon exposed to acronyms such as GMP and GDP, and our idea of a company, Pharma Freight, was born. And the idea always was that we would handle medicines in the same way which the pharma companies did, so we wouldn't change their characteristics whilst they were in our care. It was a slow start to the concept. It was a little bit ahead of its time. There weren't that many pharma companies focusing on the transport side of things, and there weren't hardly any transport companies doing it either. But things started to change when the sort of GDP came out in 2013, the new version, and it had a much bigger regulatory focus on supplier oversight, international transport, quality agreements and training. The MHRA and the other regulators saw a changing landscape and how important international trade was, realising that medicines weren't made anymore in a local factory in Liverpool and just transported down to London or wherever. It was truly an international environment with APIs coming in from China, going to packaging sites, everything being put together sort of globally. And with that, new opportunities arose for companies like Pharma Freight, now called AIT, to provide specialist regulatory compliance services to the industry.
Fantastic. So it sounds like you were trailblazers, which is amazing. So what are the biggest challenges in handling and shipping pharmaceuticals, and how can they be overcome?
So the first thing we look at from the transport perspective is we look at the label claim requirements, storage conditions. Medicines need to be kept at the right temperature during sort of transit so their characteristics aren't changed. Temperature excursions clearly compromise product efficacy and patient safety. So the use of robust temperature controlled packaging solutions is a must, ensuring heat and cold challenges can be met en route and the products protected for the validated packaging time period. Regulatory compliance, GDP and other global GDP guidelines from the WHO, the FDA, also need to be taken into consideration when planning your supply chain. Choose suppliers which understand and work to the various guidelines, regulations, whether licensed themselves by a regulator or have an appropriate quality management system, the QMS, to ensure compliance with the standards set and that they meet industry expectations. Limited infrastructure and know-how can be an issue. Not every country will have advanced systems to deal with the handling of medicines, which you might be used to in the UK, Europe. For example, it's not guaranteed that the airlines which you're using will operate temperature-controlled facilities everywhere in the world, leading to temperature and handling issues at the origin or destination station. Understanding this is important, and then choosing the right carriers and partners to help mitigate these risks in the regions will help keep your products safe. The growing and very real threat of the falsification of medicines is a real problem, and strategies must be developed to prevent products falling into the wrong hands, working to global security standards such as TAPA, Transport Asset Protection Association, and good documentary practices being in place, checking vehicle seals, knowing who you're working with, along with real-time tracking devices to know where your products are at all times. And the big topic, which I think the conference will cover as well, is sustainability, reducing our scopes 1, 2 and 3 emissions. As a transport company, we are a big contributor to carbon emissions, whether through the use of disposable packaging, fuels for the aircraft and the trucks. Such issues are being drawn into our discussions with pharma companies wherever possible in their drive for net zero emissions in the future. The use of reusable packaging, more sustainable airline fuels, using less dry ice and signing up to global sustainability programs and commitments are important to show and demonstrate compliance in this area.
Yes, as you say, sustainability is crucial. Net zero is a target that everyone's going to have to be aware of and striving to achieve. And we are covering sustainability in the conference at the event this year. So what's the value to logistics companies of having their own healthcare licenses issued by the MHRA? I imagine that's crucial.
Thank you. Yes, it's historically only logistics company involved in the transport of in the storage of medicines would have gone through the regulatory hurdles to obtain a WDA, the wholesale distribution authorization. However, GDP now talks about specific maximum time periods allowed to store licensed medicines whilst they're in transit. 36 hours for ambient and effectively no time allowed for cold chain products, meaning that if a licensed medicine stays in a logistics company's warehouse for longer than 36 hours when transporting ambient products, it would need a WDA. And you're not actually allowed to any time to have cold chain products in your warehouse if you don't have a WDA. So the latest guidelines push many carriers since 2013 to look at obtaining a WDA, but there are sort of barriers kind of to entry to do that. But airlines have WDAs now as well, but the group of transport companies still is relatively small. But from a client's perspective, when looking at a new supplier within the logistics arena, many look for them to have a WDA as it demonstrates a high level of compliance to the regulatory guidelines. And ultimately, it means that that company is subject to oversight from the MHRA, just like they are.
Fascinating stuff, and you'll be able to fill people in more on that at the event this year. So looking to the future, what predictions does AIT have relating to the future shape of the pharma transportation industry? Where are we headed?
Good question. So from a practical field, what we see on a daily basis is definitely the wider use of GPS tracking devices, a greater use of sensor technology, giving customers real-time monitoring for temperature, humidity, location, light, ensuring that the medicines remain in optimal conditions during transit and that the client sort of knows what's happening there. So if there is an issue, they can deal with it when the product does arrive. Further advancements in insulation material used for temperature controlled packaging. New materials provide better thermal protection, increasing transit times and reducing the risk of temperature excursions en route. And then on the software side, blockchain technology can create unchangeable records in the supply chain, ensuring authenticity, so pedigree and regulatory compliance. And of course, AI, predictive analytics, forecasting potential issues in the supply chain, allowing for proactive adjustments. And at AIT, we have an EQMS platform now which has inbuilt AI with its future capabilities to include where the AI will suggest corrective and preventative actions relating to deviations and complaints.
Wow, AI is the future. It's coming to help all of us, and it sounds like you guys are using it to good effect already, which is fantastic. So you're presenting at the conference for the first time, Andy, this year, which is delightful. What subjects are you going to talk about at Distributing Pharmaceuticals this year?
So my subject, it's a subject close to my heart. I am an RP, a responsible person on a healthcare license. And in recent months, AIT's quality group has been trying to combine 3 quality management systems, which have been inherited through company acquisitions, all into one, putting it also into a new electronic QMS quality management system platform. My presentation is going to highlight the positives, the negatives, the pitfalls of such a task, and what we learned through the process, all linking that back to distributing pharmaceuticals.
Fantastic. So Andy's presentation title is How to Implement an EQMS in a Global Pharma Transportation Company. AIT Worldwide will be exhibiting at stand 332. And while you're off delivering your presentation, Andy, I'm sure you'll have colleagues with you over both days of the show for anybody who wants to come and talk to you about what your company does.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll be mob handy. We'll have quality people, operations people available there for visitors to come and learn from our experience and know-how.
Marvellous. We're looking forward to having you and to a successful event. So just to remind everybody watching, attendance at the exhibition and the conference is free and registration is open at www.makingpharma.com. We look forward to seeing you, Andy, and your team and everybody watching at the Coventry Building Society Arena on the 29th and 30th of April. Thank you very much.
Thank you.